Story: Millionaire husband said, "I never want kids." Pregnant wife vanished. 5 years later, twins Ryan Calloway said, "I never want kids," because he feared becoming the father who abandoned him. He did not know Hannah was already carrying twins. Days later, she left a desperate voicemail, then vanished, and Ryan never heard it. 5 years later, a boy with Ryan's dimple and a girl who uses ASL forced the truth open. What if the person you spent 5 years trying to forget suddenly appeared with a child who had your face? Ryan Calloway had built his life around certainty. At 37, the founder of Calloway Medical Technologies could walk into an operating theater, study a failing device, and identify the problem before most engineers finished reading the diagnostic screen. But nothing prepared him for the little boy crying outside the pediatric demonstration suite. "Hey!" Ryan crouched. "What happened?" The boy looked up. Ryan froze. Hazel green eyes, sandy brown hair. And when the child nervously bit his lip, a small dimple appeared in his left cheek. Ryan had the same dimple. "My sister's hearing thing stopped working," the boy said. Beside him stood a blonde girl clutching a small hearing device. She looked frightened, surrounded by doctors, cameras, and donors attending Calloway Medical's annual children's technology program. Ryan softened. "Can I see it?" The girl hesitated, then held the hearing aid out herself. Ryan had spent enough time around his company's accessibility partners to recognize the simple exterior problem, but he did not treat or adjust any medical settings. "The battery door isn't seated properly." Click. A tiny green light returned. "Try it now." Ava fitted it behind her ear. "Ava?" the boy asked. She listened, then smiled. "It's back. I can hear you better." Ryan smiled too. Then the boy grinned. The left dimple appeared again. Something cold moved through Ryan's chest. "What's your name?" "Lucas." "Lucas what?" Before he could answer, heels struck the hospital floor behind them. Click, click, click. "Lucas." Ryan knew that voice. 5 years disappeared in a heartbeat. He turned. Hannah Brooks stood 20 feet away. Champagne blonde hair fell over her shoulders. Pale blue eyes widened beneath the fluorescent lights. She was still breathtakingly beautiful, but the softness Ryan remembered had changed into something quieter, stronger. Hannah looked at Ryan, then Lucas, then Ava. Her face lost its color. "Mom," Lucas called. "Mom." The word hit Ryan strangely. Hannah crossed the hallway quickly and placed herself beside the twins. "Are you both okay?" Ava nodded. "He fixed it." Hannah followed her daughter's gaze to Ryan. "Thank you." Polite, controlled, almost unbearable. Ryan stood slowly. "Hannah." She flinched at her own name. 5 years earlier, Ryan had returned from Seattle to an empty house. Her clothes were gone. Her wedding ring sat on the kitchen counter. A week later, Hannah's lawyer confirmed she was safe and requested communication only through counsel. Ryan stopped trying to find her address, but never stopped trying to understand why she had left. Now she was standing in his hospital program with 2 children. Ryan looked at Lucas again. Same eyes, same hair, same dimple. His pulse accelerated. "How old are they?" Hannah's expression hardened. "Ryan." "How old?" Lucas looked between them. "Mom, do you know him?" Hannah took his hand. "We need to go." Ryan stepped forward, then stopped himself. "Please." Something in his voice made Hannah look back. 4. Almost 5, she said. Ryan calculated backward. 5 years. Hannah had disappeared 5 years ago. His eyes dropped instinctively toward the twins. Ava held Hannah's hand. Lucas stared directly at Ryan with the face of a childhood photograph Ryan's mother still kept upstairs. "Hannah," his voice broke. "Are they old enough to remember who raised them?" Silence. Hannah turned toward the exit. Lucas followed, then glanced back. Ryan watched that familiar dimple appear once more. He had spent 5 years believing Hannah left because he had chosen his company too many times. But as those 3 figures disappeared through the hospital doors, another memory returned. A quiet anniversary dinner. Hannah asking one strange question. "Have you ever imagined us with children?" And Ryan giving the answer he never imagined would follow him for 5 years. "I never want kids." 5 years earlier, Hannah Brooks had written 2 baby names on the back of a restaurant receipt before she even knew there were 2 babies. Ava, Lucas. She smiled at the names beneath the warm candlelight, then quickly folded the receipt when Ryan returned to the table. "What are you hiding?" he asked. "Maybe a surprise." Ryan smiled and reached for her hand. At 32, He was already building Callaway Medical Technologies into something larger than either of them had imagined. Hannah loved his ambition. She just didn't know yet how much room it would consume. Inside her purse was a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines. She had taken 3 that morning. All positive. For hours, she had imagined telling him. Maybe he would laugh. Maybe cry. Maybe press his hand against her still flat stomach even though there was nothing to feel yet. Hannah touched her purse. Ryan, have you ever imagined us with children? His smile faded. Children. Someday. He leaned back. Honestly. Hannah nodded. I never want kids. The restaurant seemed to become quieter. Hannah searched his face for humor. There was none. Never. Never. Her fingers tightened around the folded receipt. You've never said that before. You've never asked me that directly. I thought we were waiting. Ryan exhaled. Hannah, look at my father. She knew the story. Thomas Callaway had abandoned Ryan and his mother when Ryan was 8. Birthday promises became missed calls. Missed calls became silence. You aren't your father, Hannah said. Ryan looked toward the harbor beyond the window. That's exactly what every bad father probably tells himself before he becomes one. Ryan, I know what work does to me. I know how obsessed I get. What happens when a child needs me and I'm not there? You learn. And if I don't? His voice dropped. Bad fathers create broken children. I won't do that. Hannah felt the pregnancy test inside her purse like a secret suddenly too dangerous to touch. So your solution is never becoming one. My solution is knowing what I'm capable of. A waiter passed. Glasses chimed. Somewhere, someone laughed. Hannah looked down at the receipt. Ava. Lucas. Names she had written because they felt beautiful, nothing more. She had imagined Ryan choosing names with her someday. Now she quietly folded the paper again. What if I wanted children? Ryan looked at her. Is that what this is about? This was the moment. 3 words could change everything. I am pregnant. Hannah opened her mouth. Ryan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. Callaway Medical, urgent. His expression changed immediately. I have to take this. He stood and kissed her forehead. 2 minutes. Hannah watched him walk away. 2 minutes became 12. When Ryan returned, his mind was already somewhere else. Hannah slipped the receipt into her coat pocket. She said nothing. That night, Ryan slept beside her while Hannah stared at the ceiling. She placed one hand over her stomach. I want you, she whispered. She wasn't speaking to Ryan. A tear slipped into her hair. She still loved her husband. That was what made his words hurt. Ryan believed refusing fatherhood would prevent him from becoming the man who abandoned him. Hannah heard something simpler. He doesn't want my baby. On the nightstand, Ryan's phone lit up with another company message. Hannah closed her eyes. Neither of them knew that within days an ultrasound would reveal 2 heartbeats. Neither knew that a frightened mother would eventually erase the message that could have changed everything. But that night, before betrayal, disappearance, and 5 years of silence, the first fracture was only a sentence. I never want kids. The first heartbeat made Hannah smile. The second made her grip the examination table. Wait. Dr. Lauren Mitchell moved the ultrasound probe slowly across Hannah's abdomen. The room filled with a rapid rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. Hannah stared at the small flicker on the monitor. That's the heartbeat. That's one of them. Hannah blinked. One of them. Dr. Mitchell smiled and shifted the probe. Another tiny shape appeared beside the first. Then another rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. Hannah stopped breathing. Twins. Twins. One word changed everything. Hannah laughed through sudden tears, pressing both hands over her mouth. 2 babies. 2 heartbeats. 2 children Ryan didn't know existed. Are they okay? Right now, yes. But I want you taking things carefully. Less stress, more rest, and regular monitoring. Hannah nodded without looking away from the screen. The night before, she had fallen asleep wondering whether Ryan could ever want one child. Now there were 2. Dr. Mitchell printed the ultrasound images. Hannah held them like something sacred. By the time she reached the parking lot, fear had become determination. Ryan deserved the truth. And these babies deserved more than silence. Hannah stopped at a small gift shop and bought a silver frame. She placed the ultrasound inside and tucked behind it the restaurant receipt she had kept. Ava. Lucas. Maybe the names were premature. Maybe ridiculous. But they felt different now. Almost prophetic. At home, Hannah arranged dinner and placed the framed ultrasound inside a gift bag. At 7:26 p.m., the front door opened. Ryan entered carrying a suitcase. Hannah's smile vanished. Where are you going? Seattle. Tonight, there's a failure in one of our hospital systems. If we don't solve it immediately, the rollout collapses. He moved through the room collecting documents. How long? 3 weeks. Maybe less. Hannah stared at him. Ryan, I need you tonight. He stopped. For 1 second, she thought he understood. What happened? Hannah looked toward the gift bag. Just tell him. Ryan's phone rang. He answered immediately. Calloway. Hannah closed her eyes. His voice shifted into business mode. Technical language. Deadlines. Jobs. Millions of dollars. When he hung up, she tried again. Ryan, please. This is important. So is this. More important than me? He flinched. That's not fair. Then stay. Silence. Ryan looked at his suitcase. If I don't fix this, hundreds of people could lose their jobs. Hannah's hand moved instinctively toward her stomach. And if I need my husband? Ryan stepped closer and touched her face. 3 weeks. Then I'm yours. 3 weeks. Hannah wanted to scream that their children already existed now. Instead, she whispered, okay. He kissed her forehead. 20 minutes later, the door closed. Click. Hannah stood alone. The gift bag remained unopened. She removed the silver frame and stared at 2 tiny shapes beneath the glass. Your dad is scared, she whispered. He just doesn't know what he's scared of yet. She still intended to tell him. Tomorrow, she decided. She would call. She would say everything. But 2 days later, Hannah woke before dawn with a sharp cramp low in her abdomen. She sat up. Another came. Then she saw the spotting. Her hands began to shake. At the hospital, Dr. Mitchell reassured her that both heartbeats remained strong, but warned her again to reduce stress and seek help if symptoms returned. Hannah walked into the parking lot and called Ryan. No answer. Again. Voicemail. She stared at his name on the screen. This time, she refused to hide. Beep. Hannah inhaled. Ryan, I'm pregnant. There are 2 babies. Her voice broke. Twins. I need you to come home. She left the message. What Hannah didn't know was that Ryan was already 30,000 feet above the ground. And before he ever heard her voice, someone else would. The message reached Ryan's home office before it reached the phone in his hand. When he traveled, unanswered personal calls rolled to a private voicemail account that was also signed in on his home office tablet. Ryan had asked his mother to collect several paper documents while he was in Seattle, and the tablet was already awake on the desk. Beep. A notification appeared. New voicemail. Hannah. Margaret hesitated. Then Hannah's voice filled the silent room. Ryan, I'm pregnant. There are 2 babies. Margaret froze. Twins. I need you to come home. A pause. Hannah's breathing trembled through the speaker. I'm scared, Ryan. Please call me. The message ended. Silence. Margaret stared at the screen. Pregnant. Twins. For another woman, those words might have meant joy. For Margaret, they opened a door she had spent 24 years trying to keep closed. She remembered Ryan at 8 years old, sitting on the front steps with a baseball glove because his father promised to come. Sunset arrived. Thomas didn't. She remembered Ryan at 12 pretending he no longer cared. At 16 refusing to mention his father at all. And years later, she heard her son say the sentence that frightened her most. I'd rather never have children than become him. Margaret should have called Ryan. Instead, she called Hannah. Can you come over? An hour later, Hannah entered the house holding her coat closed around her. Is Ryan okay? Margaret's face told her something was wrong. I heard your message. Hannah stopped. What? The tablet synced it. Hannah's hand moved toward her stomach. Then you know. Yes. I need Ryan to know too. Margaret swallowed. Hannah, sit down. I don't want to sit down. Please. Hannah remained standing. Margaret looked at the beautiful blonde woman her son had married and made a decision she would regret for the rest of her life. Ryan has been clear about children. Hannah's face tightened. People say things when they're afraid. And sometimes fear tells the truth. What are you saying? Margaret stood. I watched his father destroy this family because he became a parent he never wanted to be. Ryan isn't Thomas. You don't know what fatherhood could turn him into. Hannah stared at her. Neither do you. I know my son. So do I. Margaret's voice softened. If you love Ryan, don't trap him with children he never wanted. The word struck like a slap without a hand. Trap. Hannah stepped backward. These babies are not a trap. That isn't what I meant. Then what did you mean? Margaret had no answer that could repair it. Hannah's eyes filled. I called because I was frightened. I thought my husband would come home. He has hundreds of employees depending on him. Hannah gave a broken laugh. Of course. She turned toward the door. Hannah, wait. No. Her hand rested protectively over her stomach. I've heard enough from this family about what my children would cost. The door closed. Click. Margaret stood alone. The tablet remained on the table. Hannah's voicemail waited inside Ryan's linked travel mailbox. Margaret could still do the right thing. Leave it untouched. Call Ryan. Admit what she had heard. Instead, she imagined Ryan abandoning a critical project, resenting Hannah, resenting the babies, becoming Thomas one missed promise at a time. Her finger hovered over delete from mailbox. Ryan's voicemail service synchronized deletions across his devices. Margaret understood that removing the message from the tablet would also remove it from his inbox before he landed. She closed her eyes. Tap. Gone. 3 days later, Hannah packed one suitcase. She placed her wedding ring on the kitchen counter and left Boston before sunrise. Ryan returned from Seattle the following evening. Hannah. Silence. He walked from room to room. Empty closet. Missing suitcase. Then he saw the ring. His face changed. No, he called her. Voicemail. Again. Nothing. Ryan stood in the kitchen holding the ring while panic replaced anger. He had no idea that Hannah had already told him the truth. No idea his mother had heard it first. And no idea that somewhere beyond Boston, his pregnant wife was driving away with 2 heartbeats, and the belief that he had chosen not to answer. Why didn't you tell me? Ryan's voice was barely louder than the hum of the pediatric demonstration center. Hannah stopped. 5 years of anger, loneliness, and unanswered questions suddenly narrowed into 6 words. She turned slowly. Ava stood beside her, adjusting the hearing device Ryan had just repaired. Lucas held Hannah's hand, watching Ryan with those unmistakable hazel green eyes. Tell you what? Hannah asked. Ryan stared at her. About them. Hannah's face changed. I did. Silence. Ryan blinked. No, yes. Hannah, I would remember being told I had children. Her pale blue eyes hardened. I left you a message. Ryan shook his head. What message? When you were in Seattle. Hannah's voice began to tremble. I called after the hospital. I told you I was pregnant. I told you there were 2 babies. I told you I needed you to come home. Ryan looked genuinely lost. I never heard that. You never answered. Because I never got it. Hannah stared at him. Around them, doctors and families continued moving through the center. Machines beeped. Doors opened. Children laughed. Yet everything between Hannah and Ryan became painfully still. Mom. Lucas tugged her hand. Is he the person you called? Hannah closed her eyes briefly. Yes. Ryan looked down at Lucas. The boy's sandy brown hair fell across his forehead exactly the way Ryan's had in childhood photographs. Then Ryan looked at Ava. She was watching their mouths carefully, trying to follow the conversation. Hannah immediately noticed. She crouched and signed to her daughter. We are talking. You are safe. Ava nodded. Ryan watched Hannah's hands. How long has she used ASL? Since she was little. Her hearing? She has hearing loss. Ryan's expression collapsed slightly. Since birth. We discovered it early. Ryan swallowed. Another piece of childhood he had never seen. Audiology appointments. First hearing device. First sign. Hannah had carried all of it without him. I didn't know, he whispered. Hannah stood. That sentence doesn't change what happened. I know. Do you? She looked directly at him. Because for 5 years, I believed you heard me say I was scared and decided your company mattered more. Ryan's face went pale. I would have come home. Hannah gave a small, wounded laugh. I needed to believe that once. Ryan reached toward her, then stopped before touching her. What exactly did you say in the message? Hannah remembered every word. She had replayed them in her own mind for years. Ryan, I'm pregnant. There are 2 babies. Twins. I need you to come home. Ryan froze. Something moved behind his eyes. What? Hannah asked. That week, he looked away. My personal calls were forwarding to the travel voicemail account while I was in the air. That mailbox was still signed in on the tablet in my home office. Hannah's breathing slowed. The tablet at the house. Yes. Who had access to it? Ryan didn't answer immediately. Then a memory surfaced. Seattle. His mother calling the morning after Hannah's message. Margaret asking strange questions. Are you happy with the life you have? Are you sure Hannah understands what your company requires? At the time, Ryan had dismissed it. Now those questions felt different. My mother, he whispered. Hannah stared at him. Margaret. Ryan pulled out his phone. His hands were no longer steady. If that message synced, There may still be metadata in the old account archive. Ryan, I need to know. He looked at Lucas and Ava, then back at Hannah. Because either you spent 5 years believing I abandoned you after hearing the truth, his voice cracked, or someone made sure I never heard it. Hannah said nothing. Ava reached for her hand. Lucas moved closer. Ryan stepped away and called the digital forensics firm that had handled his old device migrations. I still have the encrypted backup from that tablet, he said. I need to know whether Hannah's voicemail appeared in my account during the Seattle trip and whether the backup preserved any record of it. Across the room, Hannah watched him. For 5 years, she had believed silence was Ryan's answer. Now, for the first time, she wondered whether the silence had belonged to someone else. The recording itself could not be recovered. What remained was its digital shadow. At 8:14 the next morning, Ryan sat with a forensic consultant reviewing the encrypted backup from his old tablet. The recording itself is gone, the consultant said, but the local mailbox database preserved an entry showing a message from Hannah's number at 2:37 p.m., 31 seconds long. The same database shows it was deleted from the linked mailbox at 3:16 p.m. Ryan stared at the timestamps. 39 minutes. Can you tell who touched the tablet? No. The backup records the device and account activity, not the human being. Ryan already knew who had been inside the house that afternoon. His mother had been inside the house that afternoon. He remembered asking her to collect documents from his office. He remembered her calling him later. Her strange questions. Her nervous voice. Ryan closed the laptop. Thank you. At 10:06, Margaret Calloway opened her front door and saw her son standing outside. Hannah stood several feet behind him. Margaret's face changed immediately. Ryan. He held up the printed metadata. Did you hear Hannah's message? Margaret looked at the paper. Silence. Mom. Her eyes filled. Ryan's voice dropped. Did you hear it? Margaret slowly stepped backward. Come inside. Answer me. Hannah said nothing. She didn't need to. Margaret looked at her for the first time in 5 years. I'm sorry. Hannah's jaw tightened. Ryan went completely still. You heard it. Margaret nodded. She said she was pregnant. Twins, Ryan whispered. She told you there were twins. Yes. Ryan stared at his mother as though she had become a stranger. Why didn't you tell me? Margaret's hands trembled. Because I remembered your father. Ryan flinched. Don't. You were 8 years old, waiting on those steps every weekend. You spent years believing something was wrong with you because Thomas didn't want to be a father. So you decided I shouldn't be one? I heard you say you never wanted children. I thought if you came home out of obligation, you'd eventually resent Hannah. Then the babies. Ryan's eyes burned. You decided I shouldn't know my children existed? Margaret began crying. I thought I was protecting you. From my own family? From becoming your father. Ryan looked away. The room became silent except for Margaret's uneven breathing. Hannah finally spoke. You told me not to trap him. Margaret closed her eyes. I was wrong. I was scared, Hannah said. I had just left the hospital. I needed my husband, and you convinced me that asking him to come home was selfish. Hannah, I raised 2 babies believing their father heard me begging for him and chose silence. Margaret covered her mouth. Ryan turned sharply. And the message? Margaret lowered her hand. I deleted it. The words landed quietly. Somehow that made them worse. Ryan walked toward the window. 5 years of anger rearranged themselves inside him. Hannah had told him. He simply never heard her. For one dangerous second, relief appeared. Someone else had caused this. Someone else could carry the blame. Then Hannah spoke. Don't. Ryan turned. She knew exactly what he was thinking. Your mother deleted one message, Ryan. Hannah's pale blue eyes held his. She didn't make you spend years believing children would ruin your life. Silence. She didn't make you leave for Seattle when I told you I needed you. Ryan lowered his eyes. And she didn't put, I never want kids in your mouth. Margaret looked between them. Ryan said nothing. Because Hannah was right. His mother had stolen the truth. But she had not created the fear that made Hannah believe his silence. That belonged to him. Ryan looked at Margaret. I need time. Then at Hannah. And I need proof. Hannah stiffened. Proof. Not because I think you're lying. His voice softened. Because 5 years of assumptions have already cost us enough. He swallowed. A private DNA test, if you consent. After that, we work out parenting carefully instead of pretending a lab result gives me a ready-made place in their lives. Hannah studied him for a long moment, then nodded. The children come first. 3 days later, another message reached Ryan. This one contained only 4 words. The results are ready. The DNA report answered the easiest question. 99%. Ryan Calloway stared at the number until the page blurred. Lucas and Ava were his children. Hannah sat across from him in a quiet consultation room at Bright Sound Initiative, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Say something, she whispered. Ryan lowered the paper. I'm their father. Hannah's expression barely changed. Biologically. 1 word. 1 necessary boundary. Ryan nodded. Biologically. Through the glass wall, Lucas was building a tower while Ava drew beside him. Nearly 5 years of childhood separated Ryan from that room. First steps. First words. Birthdays. Fevers. Ava's first hearing device. Lucas learning ASL so his sister would never have to communicate alone. Ryan had been alive for every moment, just absent from all of them. What was Lucas's first word, he asked. Hannah blinked. Dog. And Ava? Hannah looked through the glass. Mom. Ryan smiled painfully. Of course. Hannah stood. We should tell them. Minutes later, the twins sat together on a small couch. Lucas looked curious. Ava watched Hannah's hands as she signed while speaking. The test says Ryan is your biological father. Lucas immediately looked at Ryan. Ava stayed focused on Hannah. So he's our dad? Lucas asked. Hannah paused. He is your father. Ryan understood the distinction. Ava signed something. Hannah's eyes flickered. What did she say? Ryan asked. Hannah hesitated. Ava repeated the signs. Does he know how to be a dad? Ryan felt the question enter deeper than any accusation could. Tell her the truth. Hannah looked at him. What truth? Ryan turned toward Ava. Over the previous 3 days, he had secretly watched beginner ASL lessons late into the night. His hands felt clumsy now. He raised them slowly. Not yet. Ava's eyebrows lifted. Ryan continued, struggling with the movements. Can you teach me? His final sign was wrong. Ava stared at his hands. Then she stood. Ryan expected her to walk away. Instead, she stepped closer and gently repositioned his fingers. Like this, Lucas said, demonstrating beside her. Ryan copied them. Ava corrected him again. This time he got it. A small smile appeared on her face. Not forgiveness. Not love. Permission to try. Ryan swallowed hard. Thank you. Ava understood his lips. Then signed. You're welcome. Lucas climbed onto the chair beside Ryan. Do you know dinosaurs? Some. All of them. Definitely not. Lucas sighed. You have a lot to learn. For the first time, Hannah laughed. Ryan looked at her. That laugh belonged to another lifetime, yet he didn't chase it. He had spent years believing love meant protecting himself from becoming his father. Now he understood the cruelty hidden inside that fear. He had been so determined not to abandon a child that he had refused to imagine having one. Hannah walked him outside later. The DNA changes nothing overnight, she said. I know. You don't get to arrive with money and erase 5 years. I know. They decide the pace. Ryan nodded. And if Ava wants me to learn ASL, I learn it. If Lucas wants me 20 feet away, I stay 20 feet away. We can work through counsel on a gradual schedule so the kids are not carrying our uncertainty. Hannah studied him. What do you want from me? Ryan looked through the window at the twins. Nothing. She seemed surprised. I want the chance to show up for them. Whatever happens between us is yours to decide. Hannah's eyes softened, but only slightly. Ryan walked toward his car, then heard the door open behind him. Ryan. He turned. Ava stood beside Hannah. The little girl lifted her hands carefully. Tomorrow? Ryan's throat tightened. He looked at Hannah. She nodded once. Ryan answered with the one sign he had practiced enough not to get wrong. Yes. The DNA test had given Ryan a 99% certainty that he was their father. But as Ava smiled and disappeared back inside, he understood something no laboratory could certify. Blood had given him a title. Tomorrow would be his first chance to earn it. 1 year later, Ryan Calloway sat in the second row of a crowded elementary school auditorium and watched his daughter search for him beneath the stage lights. Ava found Hannah first, then Lucas, then Ryan. Her nervous expression softened. Ryan lifted his hands. You've got this. Ava smiled. 12 months earlier, he barely knew how to sign his own name. Now he could ask about school, argue about vegetables, apologize when he misunderstood, and understand Ava when she signed too quickly because she was excited. He still made mistakes. Ava still corrected him. That was how they had learned each other. Lucas had been easier. 3 months after the DNA test, Ryan arrived for Saturday breakfast carrying pancakes. Lucas opened the door and shouted, "Dad's here." Ryan had stood outside for several seconds pretending he needed to fix his coat. Ava took longer. Ryan never asked her to hurry. He simply showed up. Tuesday therapy appointments. Friday dinners. School pickups when Hannah worked late. Nights sitting beside Ava when her hearing device irritated her ear. Afternoons listening to Lucas explain dinosaurs with the seriousness of a university professor. Ryan missed one soccer game because of a delayed flight. The next morning, he appeared at practice before anyone else. He stopped trying to compensate with gifts or explanations. What mattered was presence. Hannah noticed. She also noticed what he didn't do. He never offered to buy Bright Sound Initiative. Never used Callaway Medical to control her work. When his company considered funding the nonprofit, Ryan removed himself from the decision entirely. Hannah had rebuilt her life without him. He finally understood that loving her meant respecting what she had built. Their marriage had remained legally unresolved, but Hannah did not treat Ryan's progress with the children as reconciliation. She kept her own home and no wedding ring. Some nights, after the children slept, they drank coffee and talked until midnight. Other nights, she simply said goodnight. Ryan learned not to demand certainty. On stage, the music stopped. Ava stepped forward with her classmates. The performance combined spoken words, music, and ASL. Ryan barely breathed. Then Ava looked directly at him. Her hands moved. MOM. Hannah smiled. Brother. Lucas waved enthusiastically. Ava paused. Ryan's heartbeat thundered. Then she signed one more word. Dad. Ryan lowered his head. His hands began to shake. Hannah saw. She said nothing. She simply placed her hand beside his on the armrest. Not holding it. Just there. Close enough. After the performance, Lucas crashed into Ryan first. Dad, did you see me? You were impossible to miss. Ava approached more slowly. Ryan crouched. You were amazing, he signed. Ava smiled and corrected the position of one finger. Ryan laughed silently. Still wrong. She nodded. Always. Ava considered it. Then signed, getting better. Outside, evening rain shimmered beneath the school lights. Ryan opened an umbrella. Lucas immediately ran ahead through the puddles. Ava followed, laughing. Hannah watched them. Some things never change. Some things should, Ryan said. Their eyes met. 5 years earlier, Hannah had begged him to come home. Tonight, Ryan would not assume he belonged there. Can I walk you three home? Hannah looked toward the children. Then back at the man who had once believed fatherhood would turn him into everything he feared. Yes. Ryan did not reach for a ring or pretend 5 lost years had disappeared. They hadn't. Ryan opened the umbrella wider, and Hannah stepped beneath it. Ahead of them, Ava grabbed Lucas's hand before crossing the street. Ryan and Hannah followed. For figures moving through the ring. Together, but not magically repaired. Margaret eventually apologized to Hannah first, without asking for access to the twins as the price of her apology. Hannah and Ryan agreed that any contact with the children would happen slowly and only when it felt safe and appropriate for them. Forgiveness there remained unfinished too. Some wounds needed time without guarantees. At the corner, Ava turned and signed impatiently. Dad, come on. Ryan smiled. Coming. 5 years earlier, Ryan Callaway believed becoming a father meant repeating the man who had abandoned him. 2 children taught him something different. Inheritance was not only what a father left inside his son. Sometimes, it was the pattern his son finally chose to end. Which choice caused the deepest harm? Ryan's fear, Hannah's decision to leave, or Margaret deleting the message? Share your view in the comments. Disclaimer: this fictional family drama is presented for entertainment only. All names, characters, companies, medical circumstances, institutions, and events are invented and do not portray real people or cases.